Vamos a dar comienzo a la sesión, a la mesa redes sociales y movilización. Después del café ya estamos todos aquí ubicados. Por favor, los que estéis dudando entre las salas, entrar a la sala que vayáis a estar. Vamos a comenzar. Redes sociales y movilización, un tema apasionante hoy en día en el que las organizaciones tradicionales están casi debilitándose más y están surgiendo movimientos espontáneos de movilización ciudadana. Para ello, contamos en esta mesa con Leila Nachawati, que va a ser nuestra moderadora y que nos va a presentar al resto de ponentes de la mesa. Leila, en Twitter es Leila_NA, es especialista en comunicación y derechos humanos. Es licenciada en Filología Inglesa y además en Filología Árabe con máster en Cooperación Internacional y además ha vivido y ha trabajado, ha tenido mucha experiencia en Estados Unidos, México, Siria y Marruecos. Es profesora de Comunicación en la Universidad Carlos III de Madrid, donde imparte clases de Periodismo Internacional y Comunicación y Participación Ciudadana en la Red. Además, estudia su doctorado de Nuevos Medios, Libertad de Expresión y Censura en Contextos Represivos, con lo cual tiene muchísima experiencia y nos va a poder centrar el tema de debate. Conoce muy de cerca toda la temática de Oriente Medio y Norte de África y además colabora con medios como El Mundo, Al Jazeera, Global Voices Advocacy y el diario.es. Vamos a darle un fuerte aplauso, por favor, a Leila y al resto de ponentes que suban a la mesa, que suban al escenario. Solo recordaros que el hashtag para esta mesa va a ser movilización EBE y para preguntas movilización EBE más P. Añadimos siempre la P al final para preguntas, ¿vale? Muchas gracias.
So, hi everyone. How are you? Is it good?
No, it's not.
You came in spite of the rain? Is the sound okay? Is the sound more or less okay? Right? Can you hear us well? Does anybody... is it good? Now? Okay. If anyone has any problem with something specific that we say and it's not clear, just raise your hand. Okay. So, yeah.
Technical problems always. Yeah.
Me dicen cuidado con el pelo. Pues no sé cómo voy a tener cuidado con el pelo. Okay. So let me introduce you guys first to our speakers. And I think this is a very unique opportunity to meet with people who have been living very historic moments in their different contexts. And I really hope we do not go over the same topics. I don't think it's useful for anyone. You probably heard a lot about the use of the internet during the revolutions, before and after. So I think the question that introduces this panel on the website, maybe we can pass, which is, would the Arab Spring have happened without the internet? I think we've discussed this enough, and I don't think it adds so much value at this point. So we probably should move forward and use this opportunity to ask ourselves, where are we? Okay, so we should ask ourselves, where are we now? Okay. And I would like to know from Asma, from Ahmad, from Francisco, I would like to know where are we from each of their experiences in the use of digital tools to promote human rights, social issues, citizen empowerment. So let's see practical examples and concerns about how are things going on right now, okay? So I would quickly like to tell you that from my experience as a human rights activist, I've come to see a lot of evolution between the use of the internet a year ago and now, okay? So now we have mobilizations in Kuwait. How many of you have heard about the mobilizations in Kuwait? Okay. So it's not reaching Spain very well, but within the Middle East and North Africa, people are talking about mobilizations in Kuwait a lot, right? And Kuwaitis are #1 Twitter users in the Arab world now. And they have basically organized the biggest demonstration in the history of Kuwait using Twitter. Okay? So historic demonstration mainly using Twitter. Okay? And this is like you can follow how it's growing basically through Twitter, through hashtags. They're coming with the color orange. So they propose the color orange on Twitter so that everybody wears orange, so that everybody wears orange also on Twitter as a symbol of the youth movement of 2006. So the symbols, the names, the dates, the meeting points are all decided and spread through Twitter. Okay? And this is something that could not have happened a few years ago and as fast as it's happening now. Also, Kuwaitis citizens from these movements have sent a letter to WordPress. You all know WordPress, right? So they have sent a letter to WordPress to tell WordPress not to give their data to the Kuwaiti government. Okay? WordPress has not given Kuwaiti government any data. The government has not asked for data, but citizens are anticipating to the possibility that government must do this in a few weeks, in a few months, or later because they saw how it happened in other countries. So this is lessons learned, experience shared, and evolution of the problems, the dangers, the threats in activism. Okay? The thing is that governments are also evolving. Governments are also using more and more sophisticated ways to control activists online. Okay? So there is now a new regulation from the European Union, and that the European Commission is going to implement, which is banning exports of surveillance technology to repressive regimes. Okay? Until now, most of the technology that Mubarak in Egypt used, that Assad in Syria uses, that Ben Ali in Tunisia used, that the Iranian regime used, were Western technology. Okay? So technology used by dictators comes from Europe, comes from the United States. So now there's this new regulation within the European Parliament to forbid, to ban exports to repressive regimes. But it's up to us as citizens to make sure this is correctly implemented. Okay? We don't want our technology as Europeans to be sold to dictators, and we should all be very aware of this tension. Okay? So now I would like to move on to our first speaker, Asma, and ask her, Asma, where are we in Egypt when it comes to this tension between government and activists online? And Asma is a reference in Egypt. Asma Mahfouz recorded herself and published it on YouTube before the revolution, saying, Egyptian brothers and sisters, we don't want to deal with this situation in the country anymore. We don't want to be killed for speaking. We don't want to be tortured and silenced for speaking. So she was extremely brave to do this. She recorded herself, and this video helped trigger the Egyptian revolution and have millions of people take the streets in her country. Okay? She was nominated for the Nobel Prize Award this year, and she's a winner of the Sakharov Award that the European Union grants for human rights defenders. Okay? So I would like you to receive Asma, and we'll listen to her. I'm very excited, Asma, to listen to you. Do you want to come here? Sure? Or would you prefer to talk here maybe? Here?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so you stay here if you prefer. I'll show your...
تفضلي.
Okay.
Good.
It's listening?
Can you hear Asma,
hearing
guys?
me? No. It's great now? Okay. Okay, thank you for here for me. No. So,
Can we do something about Asma's
I think
sound?
it's working.
Or is it working?
It's
maybe
working.
try maybe to raise your voice a little bit more, and maybe we can move this a little bit. Is it better now?
okay. It's better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's talk first about social media before the revolution, after the revolution. We started to use social media maybe it's from after 2005 in Mubarak regime. We were, okay,
Okay.
it's better now.
Good.
We tried to use it to like an alternative media and to know what to do, because in Mubarak regime we were not allowed to talk, not in the media or in the street, so we have to struggle more and more and more and more to raise our voices through demonstrations, and we used the, okay,
3.
it's very important, huh? Okay. We tried to...
Maybe use it. Yes,
I
I
have
think
to
we can
use
have
it?
3 microphones, and we can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. Everybody hears now?
Good.
Okay. So, we were thinking a lot how to connect our voices with the people in the ground and how to talk with them without any harms or threats from the police. So we found the Facebook and Twitter and blogs to use it as an alternative media. But the users of the Facebook before the revolution was not that big. So we tried to connect with the critical mass, the people who are able to change, the people who are able to hear and think and to go in the ground and to connect between the social media through the internet and the ground. We succeed a lot in that 2011 to make this revolution, so videos and events on the Facebook and tweeting a lot. But after the revolution, yes, the number of people who are using social media is getting increased. But it's a problem again.
كملي عاد.
Okay. They tried, all the people, okay, is this revolution is through the social media, so we have to go through the internet and to see it together. And through the whole year of, after the 11th of February, after Mubarak gone, we had the SCAF, so we had many clashes between the army and us, and between us and the police. So we use the Twitter because we don't have any fair media, so we have to tweet every second what we do now, where we will be where we can go, and to warn from the police that take care, the police is hiding here and here and here and there. We announce for everything we know, but after a while, the old regime knows how is most important about the social network and the social media, so they tried to use it as an opposite side. They tried to, or they did it. They made many fake accounts for all the activists and made Photoshop news and spread it everywhere to make the people confused with the right news. So this was a very, very big problem. And maybe now, after the election, and now we have a Muslim Brotherhood, President Morsi, and we have the debate about the constitution, we're trying to make awareness through the social network about what is the constitution and how we can write it. But it's very difficult now because there's many fake accounts and you don't know what actually you can do. And they use it like they announce about fake news, or fake decision. And we are applied or comment on this, and then, okay, a release from the presidents that this is a fake news, and you don't able to comment on this. So the people now are very confused about what's happening. So the situation now, far away from the social network, we are now trying to write a constitution by all the Egyptians, not from only the Muslim Brotherhood or not from
not from the dictatorship from
above.
above.
Yes, not from the dictatorship. And we tried a lot to make an events so in the grounds from the Facebook and invite people who can talk about the constitution and how to share and how to push on the presidency to let us to share in writing the constitution. And we still, unfortunately, we still have a very, very bad corruption in the police. We were very optimistic after the revolutions that we had the change, but the change is only, or in the biggest change in the people, that they believed in themselves, they believe that they can do something, they believe that we are on the change, so we have to think and learn and to connect with each other, we have to talk with each other, we have to hear and we have to follow what's happening. So all the tools that we own to really have the change in our country.
Can you tell us a little bit what this is? Because I think it's a good example.
Oh yes, this is an example, but this is not in Egypt only. This is in the Arab world. It's about the uprising of Arab women. Unfortunately, that women after the revolution in the Arab Spring have a very bad treatment, a very bad luck, very bad articles in the constitution. So we are now trying to make an uprising. We are trying to make a women revolution. We shared a lot. We played a very important role in the revolution, and we were in the front lines. And we shared in inviting people everywhere, inviting about the revolution. But now we have a very bad treatment. So all the Arab women, we made a union event. It's called the Arab Uprising for all women. And every woman now are trying to capture herself in a picture and write. اللي هو يافطة؟
الايه؟
يافطة؟
يافطة؟
لوحة؟
painting? لوحة? Painting?
Oh yes, to write in a painting or something that I am with the women uprising because of for example, because I am very important and I'm a human in this world and I have rights. But we found something positive that not only women who capture themselves, but we found also the men are trying like those. I believe in women and I believe in the rule and I believe that they have rights. So I am with the women uprising. So that's a great thing now. And this is an example for what we do now, not only in Egypt, but we're trying to connect all the Arab Spring. And recently, through the last 3 years, we are trying to connect all over the world with Occupy Wall Street, with the demonstration happening in Europe, in Spain, Portugal, Latina, and many countries. Now we're trying to connect and learn from each other and to send techniques like what happening before between Tunisia and Egypt, like warning techniques, ideas. You can do this and you can do those, and please be far away from this and take care that the regime will use this technique to be against you. So I think the social media now it's not only in every single country, but it helps a lot to connect all of us. So I believe now that the word is another word is possible, or one word is possible. So we can do the change.
Good.
And thank you.
Good.
Do I need to use this?
You have it.
I have to use it?
You keep it because now mine is
It's better
working.
with it or without? It's okay?
Okay. She's very sweet and calm, but she is tough. You have to see her video. If you Google Asma Mahfouz, she's addressing like one of the most repressive regimes in the world, telling Egyptians, go out to the streets. You can't imagine the threats she has faced for what she did.
Women always seems like nice and kind and very sweet, but when it comes to her rights or the other rights, you see deeply the powerful from her heart to the world. So, viva for women!
Viva for women, hell yeah. Okay, so Ahmed. Ahmed Shihab al-Din, he's Palestinian, but he's lived like in how many continents? I can't even remember right now.
Not Spain, though.
Not Spain, but he always uses the opportunity to come when we invite him. He has gone from working with The Stream, Al Jazeera, and now he works for the Huffington Post. And he's one of the persons I know who better knows how to deal with, we could say, citizen sources as a journalist, and how to deal with new media and to use all the new tools at our disposal to incorporate to our work as a journalist. So I can't wait to hear to you, Ahmed.
Okay. Forgive me, I'm going to stand up because it's easier for me, so for the cameras. Asma said something really important about women that I just want to mention. You know, the role of women in the Arab uprisings was crucial in the streets, and then now that the revolutions have just begun, we're seeing women sidelined, women marginalized. The rights of women are all of a sudden on the side, and so there are tools like social media, like HarassMap in Egypt, just one specific tool, which in the absence of the government being able to support women's rights or protect women or protect society, people are now plotting on a map where women are sexually harassed. It's crowdsourced, and again, the reason I wanted to start with that is that gets to the very heart of how social media, in the absence of structure, of governance, can really provide an opportunity for citizens to participate in their own governance. Now, I don't have to tell you that social media has changed the Arab world. Layla's right, we don't want to focus on this, but it's also changed media. And I know maybe some of you in the room are journalists, I'm a journalist. You know, social media is also changing our very social fabric, because by nature, we're all social animals. You know, we have coffee, we drink, we socialize, and social media has just allowed us to socialize with many, many more people, right? I always say, and this can become repetitive, the democratization of the Arab world, or anywhere for that matter, is directly related to the democratization of media. And that's what we're seeing in Egypt, in the Arab world, even in Spain, in America. When I began covering the Tunisian uprising, that's where the Arab uprisings began, I was ahead of the news cycle because I was talking to people, students, lawyers, doctors, people whose lives are impacted by the situation on the ground. Like Spain, you have 25% unemployment. I think for people under 30, it's 50%. In Tunisia, part of the reason these revolutions began were educated people, as you know, felt as though they had no opportunities, they had no voice. Their governments did not reflect their interests. Their governments were disconnected from them. And what social media does is it doesn't just connect me with Layla, or me with Asma, or me with any of you. It connects us to our governments, to struggles in other countries. Now, in the media, everyone focuses on social media replacing the mainstream media. But as we know, the two have to exist together. Now, why is that? Because news organizations now are competing with individuals. You or you or you have the ability to reach millions of people around the world with various publishing platforms. Twitter, Facebook, many of them made in the West. But the role of journalism to make use of social media should not be a threat. We should not be afraid. And I don't think many journalists are anymore. Because the pace with which we are able to reach more people, find more stories, is incredible. I mean, if you think about it, if you really think about it, how many of you know Storify? Anybody? Storify? Okay. What does Storify let us do? Storify allows us to use the millions of people who are publishing information, tweets, photos, videos, use them as sources. Now, not all journalists like the idea of relying on people who aren't paid, people who aren't credible, people who aren't maybe ethical, but the reality is we can be arrogant as journalists and pretend that we have a monopoly on the stories and the truth. But in Spain, I would imagine that a 15-year-old who tweets at the president or the prime minister asking, I don't know if you know this story, about the electoral reforms, is surprised to see a response telling him to stay out of politics. Let's discuss politics a bit later. So it's that initiative, it's that communication that really highlights how social media is not just changing journalism, but it's changing how governments react with their people. I want to talk just very briefly about the digital journalism study. 55% of journalists who were surveyed in this survey found that they use Twitter and Facebook specifically to find stories from known sources online. Think about that. Globally, 55% of journalists who work for accredited media organizations. I want to play a very brief video.
Yes,
I'll play it from here. About Bahrain. There's an uprising in Bahrain that's been going on for a year and a half. And I worked on a show that was called The Stream that tried to bring people who are on the ground in countries where the media is largely ignoring them, who are active on social media, and give them a platform to tell their own stories. In this video, it's 45 seconds, you're going to see one of those human rights activists who we found on Twitter, who's, has hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter, confronting the king of Bahrain and accusing his son of torture. Now, you don't maybe understand how important this is, but in the Arab world, this is unheard of. And the reason that people feel that they can demand their rights, that they can criticize their leaders, is because of people like Asma, because they find like-minded individuals all over the world, and the fear factor is broken. So let me just try and play this video. Is the audio working?
Today, the political unrest in Bahrain may have been forgotten by much of the world, but netizens are pulling out all the stops to keep this debate alive.
the government, like the cowards that they are, attacked peaceful protesters in the middle of the night while they were sleeping.
We've gotten so many comments on Facebook. We have a tweet from Activate Bahrain saying,
We're getting a lot of questions on Google+.
Sure.
We're going to go to the first one from Michael Osterling.
Is there evidence that the Iranian Republican Guard is actually active in Bahrain?
I'm sure Suhail is getting very uncomfortable being on the same show with me when I'm accusing Sons of the King of torture and talking about how the king himself should be on trial.
Tweet us.
so you couldn't hear the audio, but the point is, there is a woman who is a human rights activist who's been in jail I don't know how many times, whose father has been tortured by the government. He's a human rights activist, whose sister is also a human rights activist that is not allowed to return to Bahrain, criticizing the government and accusing the son of the king of torture. Why is this allowed to happen now in this media atmosphere? Our show did what? It leveraged the people like her, like Asma, who are brave enough to speak out. And, you know, we have to be careful because when we have her on our show as journalists and she criticizes the king, we put her in danger. And, you know, many of us talk about social media, Twitter, Skype, how it connects us with people on the ground, and we do interviews. But I don't know if you know, Egyptian activists during the revolution in Egypt raided the state security headquarters. And what did they find? They found secret memos that basically uncovered interception of Skype calls, hundreds of documents, showing that activists like Asma, who for many years before the Egyptian revolution were having their calls monitored. So as journalists, we have to understand the risks that social media offer us. You know, you can't just tweet publicly to someone information that they share with you privately on a Skype call and think that you're not putting them in danger. Now, how many of you know Mary Colvin? Mary Colvin, she was a journalist like Paul who was killed in Syria because the government is tracking, as Layla said, her satellite feed using certain technologies. Many people say Blue Coach technology, which is an American company. So sure, we can celebrate social media, how it's changing you know, democracy and freedoms in parts of the world, but we also have to realize that good and evil can both use these tools, right? Something I just want to share with you, I'm going to scroll down because I don't want to run out of time. In China, for example, where social media is largely censored, the relationship between social media and governments is extremely powerful, and governments recognize this. China has banned lots of internet sites, lots of Western sites, but they have Sina Weibo. Now, what does Sina Weibo do? It basically informs the people about corruption, about what their government is doing, and the government now is going to have to change its policies directly as a result of the fact that citizens in China now know when a train crashes and kills however many people and how the government was or wasn't involved. The New York Times recently did a piece about the Chinese ruling family that found, you know, we talk about the 1% in terms of income equality in the world. In America, we have the 1%, and Occupy Wall Street, the movement was about the 99%. Well, in China, there's also a 1%.
Ahmed, you have 1 minute.
Okay. The 1% in China are worth $89.8 billion, okay? That's how much the 1% in China is worth. In the US, the top officials, 660 officials, are only worth $7.5 billion. So if you want to talk about corruption, that's how citizens are learning about what their governments really do with their money. Now, because I have 1 minute, I want to just bring something up that's very specific to
You have half
Spain.
a minute now.
Half a minute, okay. The EU president, Herman Van Rompuy, is the best connected leader worldwide. He mutually follows 11 heads of state. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because the way that governments are interacting with citizens is such that 75% of European government leaders have a Twitter presence, but a lot of them only push out messages and they don't actually communicate with each other. He is actually one good example. And because there's 15 seconds left, I'm going to mention that a quick anecdote in Egypt. During the revolution, I worked for Al Jazeera. Our journalists were banned largely from reporting. They were, lots of the world was relying on Al Jazeera. So when Egypt, Mubarak shut down the internet, 88% of the internet wasn't accessible. Our journalists at Al Jazeera were detained by Mubarak, right? So as an example of how powerful social media can be, even though I'm going over time, the assistant to the Secretary of State, his name is P.J. Crowley, once he heard that our journalists were detained, tweeted a message saying, "We are very concerned about the detainment of journalists in Egypt, and we demand their immediate release." Or Egypt should be open and the journalists should be freed. This is all in a tweet. So foreign policy is being dictated in a tweet. 30 minutes later, 30 minutes after he wrote that tweet, our 6 journalists were released.
I love you. Okay, I'm using the tag EBE, but I just realized that it's movilización EBE. So I'll retweet everything I just tweeted under the different tag. So now I would like us to open the discussion for Francisco Polo, which I'm sure many of you already know. And he's the director of change.org here in Spain. And what I would like to know from Change's experience and from Francisco's experience is, where are we right now in the relationship between the individual cases that we can promote through social media and the process of human awareness and citizen empowerment? Is there really a correlation between the individual cases we can push for and a growing sense of empowerment and stronger citizenship? And I also am aware there's a new initiative by the European Parliament, which is called Citizens Initiative, which I think has a lot to do with platforms such as change.org. So I can see how our movements and our citizens and the tools we are using are influencing also institutional platforms, and I think this is a great realization to see that we're actually influencing the way they open to dialogue. So I would like to hear what you think about this issue, and Francisco, go ahead.
Thank you. I think we are changing to Spanish, right?
Vale, español.
¿Sí?
Okay.
¿Hacemos en español?
Vale.
I'm sorry, but I can translate for you later, don't worry. Bueno, muchísimas gracias por invitarme y sobre todo, te felicito por querer llevar esta mesa un poco más allá de simplemente preguntarse si con Internet se podrían haber producido las revoluciones en el mundo árabe y ver cómo realmente eso está funcionando incluso ahora, ¿no? Cómo eso está llevando el poder a la gente para seguir con los cambios que estamos siguiendo. Y es exactamente lo que tú mencionas, ¿no? Cómo pequeños héroes están surgiendo y están cambiando sus países desde dentro. Yo, pues, como siempre, podría pegar el rollo y hablar de lo maravilloso que es change.org, de los 20 millones de usuarios que tiene, de las miles de peticiones que tenemos o de la cantidad de victorias, pero quiero aprovechar que has generado esta gran oportunidad para hablar en realidad de algo más importante, de la marea de fondo, de cómo Internet, de cómo plataformas de este tipo, de cómo algunas herramientas están transformando las relaciones de poder entre la gente y los poderes tradicionales, los poderes constituidos. Y ahí me gustaría empezar hablando de algo que ya ha surgido aquí y de algo que a todos nos llama la atención, ¿no? De mujeres y de mujeres en el mundo árabe. En Arabia Saudí, las mujeres no pueden conducir. Por eso, el verano pasado, una mujer, una activista por los derechos civiles, decidió hacer algo para cambiar las cosas y decidió grabarse en vídeo conduciendo un coche en Arabia Saudí. Ese vídeo fue subido a YouTube, dio la vuelta al mundo y esta mujer fue detenida. Decenas de organizaciones llevan muchos años luchando para mejorar la situación de los derechos de las mujeres en el mundo árabe, pero ninguna había conseguido jamás un gran avance en ese sentido. Pero hubo un pequeño grupo de mujeres en Arabia Saudí que conocían a esta activista que decidieron hacer algo más. decidieron además iniciar una petición en change.org para exigirle a la alta representante para Asuntos Exteriores de la Unión Europea, Catherine Ashton, y a la secretaria de Estado, Hillary Clinton, en Estados Unidos, que denunciaran esta situación, que denunciaran la situación de los derechos de las mujeres en Arabia Saudí. Hay que recordar que Estados Unidos es el mayor aliado de Arabia Saudí en la zona. Bien, lo que ocurrió es que esa petición dio la vuelta al mundo y enseguida Catherine Ashton denunció esa situación de violación de los derechos fundamentales. Pero lo más importante es que por primera vez en la historia, el principal aliado de Arabia Saudí, Estados Unidos, y sobre todo un alto cargo de la administración de Estados Unidos, denunció la situación de los derechos humanos de las mujeres en Arabia Saudí. Eso me lleva a hablar de cómo hay tres elementos que provocan alteraciones en las relaciones de poder y que consiguen que algo que no había conseguido nunca ninguna gran organización que había invertido incluso millones de dólares para luchar por estos derechos no había conseguido jamás, y un pequeño grupo de mujeres en Arabia Saudí lo consiguieron. Y son tres cosas. Cómo Internet ha cambiado los liderazgos, cómo Internet ha cambiado la distribución de las causas por las que se lucha, y en tercer lugar, de cómo Internet ha dado un sentido de inmediatez a la lucha por las causas sociales. Voy a ir muy rápido. Respecto al liderazgo, mirad, hay una mujer que se llama Ndume Funda en Sudáfrica, que es el mejor ejemplo de una mujer sin poder. Es mujer en África, con todo lo que significa, negra, y además es lesbiana. En Sudáfrica existe una práctica aberrante que se llama violaciones correctivas, que consiste básicamente en que las mujeres lesbianas son violadas para intentar curarlas de su homosexualidad. Amigas de Ndume eran violadas, alguna de estas mujeres fue incluso asesinada después de ser violada, pero la situación de no poder soportarlo más para Ndume llegó cuando su propia pareja fue violada. Decidió entrar en un café de Internet en Sudáfrica e iniciar una petición en change.org exigiéndole al gobierno de Sudáfrica que tomara medidas para frenar las violaciones correctivas en su propio país. La petición dio la vuelta al mundo, consiguió más de 170.000 firmas de más de 150 países. El jefe de gabinete del gobierno de Sudáfrica llegó a llamar a nuestras oficinas en San Francisco para decirnos, por favor, retirad esta petición porque nos estáis colapsando los servicios y no podemos trabajar. Evidentemente, nuestra respuesta fue no vamos a retirar esa petición y os pedimos que honréis la petición que os ha hecho Ndume. La respuesta fue no podemos hacer eso. Al día siguiente, esa petición apareció en todos los medios de comunicación de todo el mundo y al cabo de tan solo unas semanas, finalmente, un grupo de 20 diputados del Parlamento de Sudáfrica abrió las puertas y decidió crear una comisión de investigación para avanzar en la lucha contra las violaciones correctivas. Hoy, el índice de violaciones correctivas en Sudáfrica ha bajado drásticamente. Ndume es el mejor ejemplo de cómo una persona aparentemente sin poder ha provocado un gran cambio en su país y ha conseguido cambiar la vida de miles de mujeres en su propio país. Lo ha conseguido sin tener una gran organización detrás y sin tener dinero para hacer una campaña de ese tipo para alcanzar a millones de personas en todo el mundo. Eso es un ejemplo de cómo personas que aparentemente no eran capaces de arrastrar y de generar movimientos pueden hacerlo hoy en día gracias a que Internet está rebajando las barreras para convertirse en un líder social. Pero es que hay muchas Ndumes. Tenemos a niñeras en Estados Unidos, tenemos a padres gays en España que les deniegan la inscripción de sus hijos por saber que son dos padres. Tenemos a miles de personas extremadamente motivadas que solamente con esa motivación pueden iniciar campañas que realmente transforman su entorno. Ese es el primer elemento, el liderazgo. El segundo es la distribución. Bueno, si tenemos tantas personas tan motivadas y las barreras para liderar bajan tanto, significa que ahora vamos a tener muchos más líderes luchando por muchas más causas. Y esa es una gran diferencia entre el antes y el ahora. Antes se luchaba por unas pocas causas: el cambio climático, el hambre en el mundo, la paz, etcétera, etcétera. Hoy en día existen tantas causas como personas liderándolas. Y son totalmente específicas, completamente ligadas al entorno más cercano. Eso lo que provoca es que gracias a las nuevas tecnologías, gracias a las plataformas que nos ofrece Internet, estamos generando una larga cola del cambio social, que es incluso más poderosa que la capacidad que tenían las grandes organizaciones de luchar por las grandes causas hasta ahora. Eso es algo completamente disruptivo, porque como todas esas luchas sociales se dirigen a los antiguos actores que estaban acostumbrados a hablar con 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 100 organizaciones, ahora mismo son incapaces de asumir esa marea de diferentes y de miles de causas y de miles de líderes luchando por cuestiones concretas. Solamente para que os hagáis una idea, en change.org cada mes se inician 15.000 peticiones. El tercer elemento, y voy a ir rápido para tener un poco más de tiempo para preguntas, que es siempre lo más interesante, el tercer elemento es el de la inmediatez. Mirad, Clay Shirky escribió un libro en 2008 que se llama Here Comes Everybody y hablaba de cómo hay nuevos modelos que incitan a la participación y habla básicamente de la promesa que hacen esas nuevas plataformas, de las herramientas que utilizan y sobre todo de la recompensa. Yo me voy a centrar en ese tercer elemento, en la recompensa. Todos conocemos cómo se cambian las cosas. Requiere que la gente luche durante mucho tiempo por una causa para al final conseguir pequeños avances. Bien, Internet y plataformas como las que hemos estado viendo han transformado eso, porque lo que permiten es que en muy poco tiempo se valide el modelo. O sea, no estamos hablando de algo que va a pasar. Estamos viendo cómo las mujeres saudíes consiguieron en tan solo unas semanas algo que llevaban muchas organizaciones luchando durante décadas. Endume consiguió cambiar la realidad de su país también en tan solo unas semanas, cuando las violaciones correctivas venían existiendo durante muchísimos años. En España vemos también campañas sobre asuntos que hemos conocido desde siempre y que consiguen cambios en muy poco tiempo. Eso es lo que valida el modelo, una nueva forma de conseguir el cambio social en muy poco tiempo. Cuando la gente participa de estos cambios sociales, cuando se suma a estas campañas, cuando se suma a estos movimientos y es capaz de ver en muy poco tiempo que se han conseguido cambiar las cosas, eso lo que hace es reforzar el modelo, atraer a más gente al cambio social y hacer que más gente se involucre en cambiar las cosas para mejor. Termino. Vemos cómo Internet ha conseguido que muchos más líderes vean que tienen muchas menos barreras para provocar los cambios que quieren ver en el mundo. En segundo lugar, eso lo que provoca es que surjan miles, cientos de miles de nuevas y pequeñas causas. Y en tercer lugar, lo que vemos es que no solamente surge una nueva forma de intentar cambiar las cosas, sino que esa nueva forma realmente consigue cambiar las cosas, valida el modelo y atrae a mucha más gente para provocar esos cambios que queremos ver. Terminando, ese es precisamente el poder de Internet, el permitir unir a la gente en grandes o pequeños movimientos que se hacen y se deshacen como si fueran un enjambre formado por miles o por cientos de miles de pequeñas unidades que por sí mismo tiene la fuerza de tumbar al mayor de los elefantes. Ese es el poder de Internet, ese es el poder de la gente. Muchas gracias.
So I think this is a very good overview of Vista de Pájaro, okay, of the activism and journalism and the opportunities new media have opened. I think there's a long way ahead of us for you really using them to their full potential. So I would like to open this to your contributions and questions right now for Asma, Ahmed, and Francisco. So please don't be shy now, okay? You're saying things on Twitter, but you're actually walking here not only to say things through Twitter, but to be able to say it to them personally. So, okay, don't be shy and go ahead. What's the first question?
Muchas gracias a todos. Yo soy periodista y a Francisco, I can talk in English, whatever you want. How many changes have become effective without journalism, traditional journalism, because I've signed in Spain, and now I'm talking to Francisco, so many petitions in change, like Salvemos el Palmar, for example, that it's a beautiful beach that we have in southern Spain, and I guess we are like 100,000 people and we haven't got anything. So my question is, how important is still journalism to change things, even if we get the news from social media?
Okay. It's fundamental. I always say that I'm not a fanatic of the internet. I always believe that the internet is a tool that we can use to make social change and to promote social change. But we have other instruments also, that is journalism or mobilizing people or other things, even offline organizing. We don't think that offline organizing is something that is not useful. On the contrary, we will live on the power of the internet to put together all those powers, all those energies to provoke change. For example, in Spain, there was this campaign also around Miguel Montesneiro, who was in prison for 35 years. His case was unknown, absolutely. And when the government of Spain started to pardon corrupt politicians and corrupt bankers, and he was still in prison, there was this huge petition on Actuable that started to grow. Then the media started to talk about this petition, but there was something that was fundamental in this campaign. That was a journalist that in the last Council of Ministries, when they were asking the government what they did that same day, that journalist from Telecinco decided to change her question. And instead of asking about the crisis or about the bailout, she decided to ask about the pardon of Montesneiro. That opened a lot of news in a lot of TVs, and only in that question made the socialist government to finally pardon Miguel Montesneiro, and now he is free. So I believe in the power of the media and the power of the journalists to really make change. It's not incompatible. I will never say, and you will never hear from us that petitions is the only thing that is changing the world. Petition is a very powerful tool for a lot of things, but it's just a part of the social change we want to see.
Okay, next one, yes. We have someone here.
Okay, it's a question for Ahmed. Can you tell us a little bit more about the elections in the US now? How are the politicians using social media in order to promote their candidates, please?
So, you know, when we talk about social media and the mainstream media, to that question and to your question, I'll try and answer both. You can't look at them mutually exclusive. And I think politicians like Obama and Romney are recognizing to varying degrees the significance of not just TV advertisements, but reaching a wider audience. So many different initiatives, including, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Reddit, but President Obama, for example, surprised everybody in the mainstream media by appearing in a Ask Me Anything. It's called an AMA, where he literally sat down at a computer for an hour. Of course, unlike the traditional media, there was no press release. It went viral very quickly on the internet, and it's a very, very famous site where he was answering questions directly from citizens. So aside from all the investment and the collaboration with Facebook in particular, promoted tweets, the use of promoted tweets in order to get the message to a wider audience and hope that the message goes viral. By doing an Ask Me Anything, it's symbolically, forget the actual numbers, a gesture to show that he's listening, right? And I would argue, if you're asking specifically with the US elections in general, the mainstream media, for the first time, I think, since 1998, or let's say for the first time ever, is taking cues from social media. Oftentimes, you'll see reporters or party spokesmen from Obama or Romney release information to online journalists, and then the story eventually will be followed up in the mainstream news cycle. Because the problem with this election cycle is that the news cycle happens so quickly. For example, with Hurricane Sandy, which is the hurricane in New York, that highlighted the difference between Romney and Obama so clearly, because Obama chose to even be tweeting and to be retweeting people who are in New York, in Wall Street, who are documenting images of subways flooding, of power outages. And you know, it's not a concerted effort, but I would argue that if you want to just compare the two, Obama certainly is ahead of the game, investing a lot more money in social media than in mainstream media and TV spots. Because the truth is, 68% of people between 18 and 30 in the US get their news online, not from TV. And they don't even own TVs. So spending so much money on traditional advertisement will reach the majority of Americans, but there are demographics that are key to Obama, like the youth demographic, that he needs to invigorate through social media.
So you would say Sandy and the way both candidates reacted through social media is a game changer?
Yeah, Sandy in particular. Romney was found to be flip-flopping, as he always is. I don't want to get too into the internal politics, but...
Okay. Any other questions? Do you guys have any further comments or questions?
Just one thing I wanted to say is, because we have Asma here, in Spain, I was talking to Leila earlier about how journalists can use social media. I think our role, whether we like it or not, journalism used to be about objectivity and about reporting. And the problem is now anybody is a reporter, and most of those reporters aren't objective. So the role of journalism for me has really become one of curation, of adding context, of adding commentary. So even with the crisis in Spain, for example, you have people on a local level reporting problems that they face, so on and so forth, or documenting a protest. And the role of journalism, I think, is to find those voices, leverage them, but also provide context and verify them when things are inaccurate, so on and so forth. So it's more exhausting and perhaps scary, but I think it's important to always add context as journalists.
Following that, I'm curious to know, Asma, who do you follow on Twitter to be in touch with what's happening like in Europe, politically, economically? Do you have any European Twitters that you follow? Or maybe do you follow mainstream media through these channels? في حدا يعني بالتويتر انت كثير بتحبي تعرفي عنه عشان تعرفي عن يوروب عن اوروبا؟
I can recognize now, but I'm trying to use the hashtags like what happened in Athena before and France and lately the strike in Spain. There's always hashtags like strikes, revolution. Spain we were trying to retweet the pictures of the harassment done by the police against the protesters, and we're trying to connect with each other and send it to the human rights organization to talk, maybe to send emails to the people, members of the EU, or personally to talk what's happening in your country.
Do you think there's good coordination or connection between activists in Spain or Greece and activists in Egypt, Tunisia? Do they work together?
Yes, in some way, yes, and we are getting solidarity with each other, and we are encouraging each other, and we feel like we are in the same situation. Because I feel so sorry about what happened in Athena. So we feel that we need to work more and more and more to free the world, because I'm very in a big depression before, because I feel that we are alone in the Arab Spring. We are trying to struggle, but when you reading the tweets from the European activists, you see, no, you are not alone. You have all the world are struggling.
Asma, I wanted to just quickly say, You know, even though the specifics in Spain or in Egypt or in America are very different about the struggles and challenges we face, to Asma's point, what we're witnessing is not a coincidence. You know, this global struggle, people speaking out and finding that there are people listening across borders. And for journalists, so many times when you're in Spain, for example, maybe you're not paying attention to people who are gaining a lot of attention through social media across the world. It's not a coincidence that the Occupy movement in America coincided with the Arab revolutions. It's not a coincidence that politics in America is more polarized with conservative and liberal, and in Spain it's the same in Greece with the Golden Dawn, in Egypt with the constitution drafting, the liberals versus the Islamists. We're facing, I think, a global struggle of polarization. And so one role of the media, I think, is to make those connections, and even if they're not obvious, make sure that you're paying attention to the voices that are attracting support and movements across the world. I think that's why she's here.
And I think this pretty much answers the question that someone sent me through Twitter, which is, are media, I guess this means mainstream media now, more of a tool for change because they have integrated social media? So I guess there's this tension incorporated in this question, like what you have mentioned. So any last question, or we leave it here for good? And you have them here all day to have like a more personal conversation with them. One last question, okay? One last question here. Can someone hand him the microphone?
Sí, mi pregunta es para Francisco. ¿Recibe Change.org amenazas? O sea, y principalmente ¿de quién?
Sí, hemos recibido algunas amenazas, por ejemplo, cuando tuvimos una campaña que intentaba luchar por la liberación de Ai Weiwei, el artista chino. Tuvimos un ataque por parte del gobierno, o sea, nunca fue oficial, pero hubo un ataque por parte de China y eso, bueno, pues intentando tumbar el sitio porque la petición de Ai Weiwei estaba realmente molestando al gobierno chino y estaba llamando la atención sobre la situación de derechos humanos en China. Y después hemos tenido pues siempre ese tipo de llamadas por parte de gobiernos o de jefes de gabinete intentando pedirnos que retiremos peticiones, pero nosotros tenemos muy claro que somos una plataforma abierta para que cualquier persona pueda iniciar la causa que quiera y que ahí van a estar para poder seguir denunciando, ¿no? O sea, esa es la fuerza que tiene Change, que no está sometida a gobiernos y que es independiente.
Do we have room for more questions, or do we have to leave it here? Ok, good. Thank you, muchas gracias, chicos, y nos vemos por aquí. Para lo que necesitéis, ya sabéis dónde estamos.